To Broward now, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Okay, not that old. Vickie Cartwright, no longer interim, but permanent Broward Schools superintendent.
She has been holding the job as the interim on a temporary basis since last summer when her predecessor, Robert Runcie, resigned under pressure after a grand jury indictment. Dr. Cartwright is with us live this morning. There she is. Dr. Cartwright, welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and joining you this morning. Thank you for having me.
Did you get the reference to the Who? Did anybody
No,
get
I didn't.
Yeah, you are a music professional. I mean, your degree was in music. You were a music teacher. But seriously, let me begin here, Dr. Cartwright. As you know so well, tomorrow is the 4th anniversary of the terrible massacre at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, 17 killed, 17 wounded, and thousands of people traumatically, psychologically injured. How are you going to observe that anniversary?
So I started actually, it's very heavy on my heart and very heavy on my mind because you're absolutely right. It was such a tragedy for these very young lives, as well as for some of our employees too. And people have been impacted by this from multiple ways and across the community. We have those who, unfortunately, their souls have left us prematurely. And then we have those as well that have been injured or completely impacted. So last night was out at Coconut Creek where they had a memory to remember our 17 lost souls. And then we also had a memory for all those who were injured as well. Tomorrow we have a day full of remembering and going and sharing love and kindness.
Dr. Cartwright, that day, that catastrophe changed the trajectory of school security in Broward and elsewhere, but particularly in Broward. And in the search for a new superintendent, that was right there at the top of the list. And the parent on the school board, Lori Aladef, did not support your candidacy, largely because one of your opponents was focused more on security than I suppose she thought you were. I don't want to put words in her mouth. And so I wonder if you would address the changes in security. Obviously, it's a priority for all school districts, student safety, but more specifically, where are you going with that in your tenure?
So under my leadership, we've actually been doing an awful lot related to school security. Immediately went in and made sure that we wrote our reunification plan, our school crisis communication plan. And we've been going out and actively meeting with our first responders and all the different municipalities and getting their feedback on those reunification plans. So that way we're not only actively working alongside them, but we're opening those lines of communication, which is really important. Another thing we did is we started recognizing that our very large athletic events were with seeing so much violence, threats, just all across the region. We went ahead and went in with the wanding and even what you can bring in, what type of items you can bring into the games. Now, where we are is we just, in January, we passed, or we got our first read on the policy related to randomized wanding. So it's like wanding and metal detecting. And so we're currently having those conversations to get us more towards implementation at this point. Even on the board agenda on Tuesday, we have a product that we're bringing forward so that we can make sure that we have consistency in our training across the entire organization for both level 1 and level 2. So there's a lot still that's going on. We're hopefully within the next month, we will start our interviews in order to replace the task assigned individual to the full-time chief for school security and safety. So there's a lot of moving parts happening. Each one of these is an additional layer of security and safety that we're putting into our schools.
Yeah, Dr. Cartwright, need not tell you the main thrust, your main responsibility is seeing that excellence prevails within the classrooms, that kids are learning, teachers are teaching correctly. And as we said earlier to Dr. Jose Dotris, thousands and thousands of children were learning at home virtually, but they weren't learning as much. So what is your plan to reach out to those children when they are back now in the classroom and help them remediate, come up to where they should be in reading and math and language skills?
Thank you. So what we've really been doing is intentional with accelerating our learning opportunities for all of our children. We know that research shows that oftentimes that one-on-one assistance or small group assistance that's very targeted towards areas where the student may be struggling, and working with our students, even with tutoring opportunities, are the best approaches in which to accelerate the learning for our students. Things that we're also doing across the entire district right now is we are taking an inventory as well of all of the additional supplemental instructional resources that are being offered to our school sites. And we're evaluating the effectiveness of those resources to ensure that as we continue to go into summer and into the next school year, we have more of a structured process, more of like what I call a menu approach, so that we know that the resources our teachers are implementing, our students are using, are going to actually give us that return on investment, because we don't have enough time just to be waiting around and hoping that something's going to work. We have to be very intentional on that strategy. So that is one way in which we're doing this. In addition to that is also understanding better what are the needs of our teachers related to professional development, making sure that we're being very targeted in that approach as well. So that way, any support that they may need to be successful, or even a school administrator, whatever support they may need to be successful, we put those systems in and that resource in place so that they are successful. Because when they're successful, then that means our children are being successful.
Yeah, and like Miami-Dade, Broward is going forward without a mask mandate now. That changed this weekend as well. Broward and Dade were two of the 12 districts that defied the mandate, paid for it financially. And right now, in the House budget, there's $200 million that is suggested to be taken out of those 12 counties, moved, redirected to another 50 whatever counties. That could be a big loss. Not that that will happen, we're not there yet, but that will be a big loss to Broward. So Broward's facing some serious financial headwinds, and I wonder if you would, I know you're on it, and what's the plan to really address what the district might lose or have to owe?
You know, I'm very, very concerned by this. I am grateful to our governor for leaning in at the end of the week, this past week, basically saying, please, encouraging the legislatures to not carry that forward.
Well, on the flip side of that is he was encouraging the ability for parents to be able to sue. So that was sort of a double-edged sword right there.
Yes, but we don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that means going forward or going retroactively backwards. We still contend that, you know, all the way up until it was actually put into law, we were in compliance, and that when it was law, we fell into compliance with the new law as well. So it's confusing for us a little bit on that end, because again, the moment that it went through legislation and it passed, we came into compliance.
Yeah. Superintendent Cartwright, let me ask you about a really hot button bill that is going through the legislature. You're quite aware of it. Glenna was up there, covered the story this week, and we'll talk about it later on this program. And that is the Don't Say Gay bill, which would say that school districts like Broward, the one you run, that in schools, teachers, staff may not encourage a discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity. What is your read on this bill? Do you think that this would prevent your schools and your staff from helping kids who are gay or bi or trans who have problems with it?
You know, this is a very scary bill, to be frank with you, because when we're looking at this, for many of our students, school is the place where they feel inclusion, they feel accepted. It's a safe place for them. And so for there to be this potential that we can't even have the conversation or provide the help to those who identify with the LGBTQ plus community is horrendous. Unfortunately, the stats on this is also bad. The suicide ideation, suicide attempts from our youth is much higher than any other groups from our children and our students, our young lives. And to say, all right, we're going to remove that safe place now. And by the way, we can't talk about it. No. We're going to exclude you and not even recognize how you identify. It is a slippery slope, and it's very dangerous.
We are going to be talking all about that in a coming segment. Dr. Vickie Cartwright, we thank you so much for being with us. Best of luck to you the rest of this year in your new permanent position.
Thanks. We'll speak with you, I'm sure, many times in the future. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thank you both.